Oilers Now digital content is sponsored by Legacy Heating and Cooling. No payments and no interest for a year. That's how you build a legacy.
We welcome back for the fourth consecutive season one of the most plugged-in men in the business, soon to, I'm sure, have a full-time affiliation, undoubtedly. Just can't tell us who with. We welcome back Frank Seravalli. Hello, Frank. How are you?
Pretty good. How was your summer, Bob?
Good. It's like I never talked to you anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know this, but phones actually work both ways.
Oh, is that okay? How you doing?
Yeah.
What's going on?
I'm good. I'm excited for another season here on Oilers Now. Good to be back. I've been getting lots of messages from people asking when I'm going to be rejoining Bob Stauffer. And, excited to get rolling and excited to talk to Derek and Kellen every week.
All right, there you go. Well, and we got a new young gun producing the show as well with Aiden, so there you have it. They're all part of the team here, and it is a team, so let's get to it. There's an old saying in radio, you go to the mouth of the line of the story, and it is the biggest story in hockey right now and it involves Connor McDavid. Now, it should be noted, Frank, there's a couple other star players in this league. Jack Eichel in Vegas, Kirill Kaprizov in Minnesota, and they have not signed extensions either. These players are not holding out. They just haven't signed their extensions yet. Give me your take. What's your perspective on this with McDavid?
Well, I think it's created what's probably a pretty uncomfortable few weeks here for the Edmonton Oilers front office and fans and marketplace. I mean, let's just call it what it is. That everyone would have hoped for Connor McDavid to be signed by now and signed for a max term, and that everyone, thought that this might be a foregone conclusion. And I'm not saying that it's not going to happen by any stretch of the imagination. I think what's been a bit of a surprise for me is really how deep of a dive Connor McDavid has done on this entire process and how contemplative he is. For someone who is so singularly focused on winning, money is not what drives this decision. Logo, what city he plays in, what the thermometer reads on the coldest winter day, that's not part of this conversation at all. He wants to win. There's one hole on his resume for one of the most accomplished hockey players ever to walk planet Earth. And the fact that he's gotten as close as he has, as close as any team could over the last 2 years, and fallen short, he's not just going to sign because the team was good in the past. He wants assured focus and vision that this team is going to be the premier team in the league for the next 3, 5, 7 years, however long it ends up being that he's willing to commit for. And that part, I think, has left him with some questions as to, yes, the Oilers are really good now, but what will they be soon? And that's the part that really, if you're the Oilers brass and front office, is a little bit more difficult to answer because there isn't anyone on earth who can answer with any degree of certainty. Sports are weird.
Have you spoken to him directly?
I have not.
Okay.
I don't know if you know this, but he's not really like a big chat. He's not a real chatty guy.
I have no idea what you're talking about. So, no, it is. And Frank, I think it's important for full disclosure here because I opened up with Cordelia by Tragically Hip, one of my favorite songs, and you all know the significance of Cordelia relative to King Lear. Cordelia was the honest daughter that stuck by King Lear when he had no gold left anymore and told him the truth when he had the gold. I work for the Oilers Entertainment Group. When we got out of the Stanley Cup final, which had a disappointing conclusion, of which Florida was better in the final 4 games and the Oilers were banged up, and I think there was recognition that Florida was the better team. And, the irony of Nugent Hopkins, Hyman, and Kane having the traction that they did together to lose that line And they literally lost the entire line by the time the final wrote because Nuge got hurt in game 2. Kane was a non-factor. But when we got out of the final, I asked you point blank, and you said 100%. And then in I believe it was early August, I said 102% that he re-signs some form of extension. At no point did we ever say 8 years. So, we have people every day. Well, you said 102%. I said, well, these things, I still believe McDavid ultimately is going to extend here.
I do too.
Okay.
And my prediction hasn't changed.
Okay. Nor is mine.
I just think the rub is that it's not going to be for as long as everyone wanted or hoped.
I don't think realistically, like when you and me talked about this when you came to town during the Stanley Cup final, I think we looked at Judd Moldaver's track record with Austin Matthews in 5- and 4-year extensions and thought, well, maybe it's shorter term extension. Maybe it's even going to be shorter than 4 years. So,
I don't know that it really matters.
Explain that.
I know that sounds funny to say, but I think in the end, first off, if you're the Oilers and McDavid is dead set on, hey, I want to sign for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, whatever it is, that what the Oilers turn around and say is, yes, thank you. We'd love to have the best player on planet Earth for another 2, 3, or 4 years. Of course. And in 18 months or 2 years or 3 years from now, we will then engage in another checkpoint conversation to say, hey, is this meeting your expectations? Do you still believe that you have every chance to win here? And it's going to be up to the Oilers to live up to and match what the incredibly high standard that McDavid sets for himself, for his teammates, for every practice and time that team is together. It's up to them to meet the threshold. And if they do, he'll be there. And if they don't, then he'll walk. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. So, I think that an extension is inevitable. And it has also delayed some other things. I mentioned earlier today, like with Podkolzin, I had some people say, they just need to take their time and Podkolzin. I'm like, well, he does have arbitration rights. Basically, the trade they made for Podkolzin was because of what happened with Holloway. Podkolzin's a different player, probably doesn't have as high of an offensive upside. Might be a little bit more at this stage, he's a thick body. He doesn't get hurt. He doesn't miss games. But Dylan had a great year. And then there's Woolman. Stan Bowman basically, let's face it, he got Podkolzin to replace Holloway and he got Woolman to replace Broberg. And I expect to see both of those guys get extended. And he pretty much got Trent Frederick, by the way, to replace Evander Kane. Different player, and again.
But I wonder if in the end, and I hate to bring it up again because you talked about it almost every damn conversation that we had last season, was the Holloway-Broberg decision to not match the offer sheets. But I can't help but think that something like that is weighing in on the decision-making process here for McDavid solely from a future and age perspective. When you say goodbye to players who are in their early to mid-20s and you replace them with players that are older on a team that is a little bit older and is one of the oldest teams in the league, at some point that crop needs to turn over again.
Yeah, well, in the case...
McDavid's going to be there for the other end of it, but he wants to know who's going to be riding with him, which is why that part you can't go on ring the bell. So the Oilers can't really do anything about the mistakes that have been made in the past. And you can't predict the future because no one has a crystal ball. But what you can do in the meantime is try and make as many smart decisions as you can, which includes trying to trade for Ike Howard to see if he's someone that can slide into your top 6 or middle 6 this year as an entry-level player, to go out and pound the pavement and go get a Tomaszek from Europe and see if he's someone that can get plugged into your middle 6. And then the maturation that we've seen from Savoy over the last calendar year. can he be someone that starts the season on McDavid's line in place of Zach Hyman and gives him some confidence in terms of making that decision that, yes, I feel good about what the future of the Oilers looks like, because the present is covered. The present's covered by the last year of this deal, that he already knows that they have a chance to win this year. His concern is the future years that he's going to be signing for.
Yeah, and so I'll look at this differently, and it's going to come across as self-serving and pro-Oiler. That's just the inevitability of it. I personally believe the organization's at a better place now than it's been at any time over the last 18 years. There's a structure and process to how Jackson and Bowman are doing things. Frank, they went out and they traded a second-round pick for Frederick and a first-round pick for Wallman. They extend Frederick to an 8-year deal, one that's been criticized by many fans in oil country because they have a recency bias of what they saw with Frederick in the playoffs, and that wasn't the player that played in Boston. Okay, he was seriously compromised with a knee injury. And then they turn around, they get Wallman for a first-rounder, and a lot of the people out there didn't have Wallman on anybody's radar screen, and I believe Wallman will probably do a long-term extension. In fact, that might even get, there's, I don't want to put a date on it, but I could foresee a scenario where that gets done. And then to replace the picks, what do? They went out and signed a couple guys out of Europe. And some people might say, well, the Oilers went down the European train before and brought in Nygaard and Gaetan Haas. But Tomashek, and that's how he wants it pronounced, David Tomashek, he was a Swedish scoring champion. Like, Haas was not the scoring champion in his league. Nygaard was not a scoring, right? There were multiple teams in on Tomashek over the last 2 years with Octagon. And then in Lepinen's case, he led the Finnish league in scoring as a defenseman. Multiple teams. These are different caliber of European players. Not to mention...
But no guarantees, just like a draft pick is not a guarantee.
Just like it, but it is a bet on an older player. And it's a non-traditional path for the Oilers. That's the other thing. Not to mention...
Well, here's the thing. And I agree with everything that you just said, but my concern is that for the last 4 years or 5 years prior to Stan Bowman getting there, that wasn't exactly the type of pounding the pavement that the Oilers should have been doing and trying to do everything they can as possible. That's not to say Ben Holland and his group didn't try to win or weren't aggressive. That's not the point that I'm making. But it's when you have the extra mile that you can go and you're Stan Bowman and the Olympic break or the Four Nations face-off break, and instead of sitting on a beach like most of the rest of your colleagues where he's over in Sweden trying to talk to these players, those are the types of things that are going to keep Connor McDavid in Edmonton, because he's not going to be able to get the same promise that he's looking for from the Oilers is the same promise that anyone else can give him around the league. He wants to now see part of this, I'm guessing, come to fruition a little bit before he makes his decision.
So what I would say, Frank, is in the last 4 years, the Oilers have won 9 playoff series. I know they haven't won the ultimate prize. 9 playoff series in the last 4 years. And I preface this by saying I want Calgary to be good and competitive. The Flames have won 6 playoff series in the last 34 years. The Oilers have won 9 in the last 4 years.
Okay, but picking the Flames to compare to...
No, hear me out.
It's a non sequitur.
So We've got people in markets in Canada talking about how the Oilers' window is closing. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe that if they have McDavid, Draisaitl, and Bouchard, and with a better structure from a management perspective as to how they work, I could foresee this being extended by another 3 or 4 years. Not saying they get to the Stanley Cup final every year, because a lot of things have to go right. Nobody had them beating Dallas in either of the 2 years, and the Oilers beat Dallas. I'm just saying that this feeling out there, well, it's this year and it's bust and that's it, I'm not buying that.
I'm not either. I would make the argument that so long as Connor McDavid remains in Edmonton, that the Edmonton Oilers will have a chance to win.
Yeah,
it's that simple.
All right,
and I probably should include Draisaitl in there, but think about how long the run has been in Pittsburgh. Those guys have been together, 18 years now?
Yes.
This is their 18th season together. why can't the Oilers get 14 really good, productive runs out of that core?
All right, very quickly, what is happening with Kirill Kaprizov, Frank? Frank Seravalli joining us. He's our headliner today for Wilhauk Beef Jerky. What's going on with Kaprizov, and what's going on with Jack Eichel?
Well, it's been really quiet on the Kaprizov front since my report, I'm sure, as you might expect. They're trying to keep a lid on this conversation. I don't think it was unnoticed that Kaprizov's agent made an unannounced visit to Minnesota Wild practice over the last few days, perhaps in an attempt to reignite or restart what had been talks that kind of came to a screeching halt. The Wild felt like they put together a fantastic pitch and were pretty surprised to be met with a no. And they've got a lot to work on. And I don't know, the tough part is, what's the counter? If you are turning down 8 times 16, what are you actually looking for? And I don't buy for 1 second that it's to play somewhere other than Minnesota. I don't think that's his focus.
All right. What about Eichel?
Jack Eichel?
Yep.
Yeah, I would say Eichel is probably the happiest person to see that Kaprizov turned down 8 times 16. Obviously, different situation slightly. Eichel is a center, and he has a Stanley Cup in his resume. And the Golden Knights just have a different structure that they need to be mindful of, given the contracts that they have on their books. I don't think Jack Eichel has a very big stomach, and I don't think the Golden Knights do either, to play out this season. I wouldn't be surprised to see a deal materialize over the next 2 weeks. And as a perfect bow to our conversation, I'll add in, too, that I think that this is an incredibly critical 2 weeks for the Edmonton Oilers, because if Connor McDavid goes unsigned past opening night, I just don't know what's the next pressure point, because I don't know if there is one until June.
That's fair. That's a fair comment. By the way, there was reports out there on Yegor Shinnikov. Somebody listed the Oilers as one of the teams. To me, makes no sense. The Oilers already have too many forwards, and they don't have a lot of cap space. What have you been able to gather there?
Well, he's obviously been unhappy. He was pretty public about his trade request. Don Waddell in Columbus has been pretty open as well, saying that if you don't want to be here, we'll find a way to move you. But to this point, I've seen or connected no validity to the Oilers being part of that.
Yes, I don't see that. Frank, as always, appreciate your time. Who knows? Maybe by this time next week, we might have a contract or two to talk about. Thanks for joining us.
That would be something. See you, Bob.
See you later.